Good day once again, everybody. Welcome to this latest edition of Gun on One. It is powered by the Inside the Birds Network. I'm Derrick Gunn. Bottom line, Philadelphia Eagles 6-2, half game out of first place in the NFC East. Everybody should be happy, and yet people are irate about some of the decisions the coach has made in the last particular game against Jacksonville. To help me break this all down and talk about the success of the team and the insane play of Saquon Barkley and where this team goes from here, one of my all-time favorites on the Philadelphia Eagles, Pro Bowler, future Hall of Famer, right tackle extraordinaire Lane Johnson. What's up, my brother? It's been a while since we've chatted.
Man. Thank you for having me. Like we were talking about, season's going by fast. We started to pick up some momentum. This past few weeks, the last week wasn't a pretty win by no means, but look at some stuff and change what needs to be corrected and move forward, man, towards Dallas.
I got to ask you this because it's been played all over the country. People are still wowed by it. That run by Saquon was insane. The spin move, jumping over backwards. Did you see it? I know you're on the far side of the field. Did you see him do it live, or did you have to wait to look at the replay to see it?
I was towards I was downfield behind him. So I saw a little bit on the screen. Like I saw the spin move, and then I didn't see the jump. I heard the crowd go, and then I think Jimmy Kempski showed me on his phone. I was like, well, if that don't look like Barry Sanders, I don't know what does. Just doing the hurdle, and when you look at the guy, he's not even diving at him yet. And then I don't know, man, just some guys got it all. He's one of them.
Have you ever played with a back like him before?
I would, LaShawn McCoy was very dynamic, like Saquon, and when they're back there, man, I feel the same. I feel like, every time they have the ball, that's something exciting and crazy, and they can go the distance with it. I had that confidence with them, and obviously they're different built guys. Saquon's is a little bit bigger, but either way, I felt so good. I felt that if they had, they got the ball, that they can make a lot of great stuff happen. They usually do.
Hey, congratulations, by the way, and you guys finally scoring some points in the first quarter of a game. Yeah. Did you guys really care about that? It was talked about so much. Did you guys care about that?
Yeah, we cared. I just think, when you look at even the game last week, we had all these yards, and you look at the score, and the score doesn't indicate the amount of good that we did. But I think the lapse in focus the second half proved to be detrimental to us. And I explained kind of in the locker room after that, the NFL is so, equal in talent level, pretty close, that when you lose judgment or let up on people, that they can quickly come back and, Nakobe Dean saved that game for us. And so I think it's a lesson learned. We have a lot of young players. I've been around. I've got to experience things and go through different games like this. But I think it's just a huge learning experience for a lot of guys on the team. It's an eye opener, and I think it'll hopefully bring more clarity and focus for us in the future games.
So what were you guys talking about as the weeks piled up and you didn't score points in the opening quarter? What were you guys talking about in the locker room, film study, whatever the case may be? What were you guys talking about in terms of how can we break this?
Yeah, I think we look back and kind of change our approach. And I would say, like, our style of our offense now is kind of, remember the Detroit game in 2021?
Absolutely.
We kind of changed our identity and who we wanted to be. So I feel like the past few weeks have been like that. And I think, the biggest thing that we've harped over is really, Coach talks about the football all the time. He talks about creating turnovers, not turning over the ball. So that's been our main point of emphasis. I think the early games we were, we're still, not up there as far as turnover differential, but we're really bad towards last in the league. So we've done better at protecting the ball the past 4 weeks. We've taken it away, but really when we get into our meeting rooms, we start every meeting with ball security. Every practice clip is ball security. And when you turn on defense, are you attacking the ball? Or are you trying to get it out? So focus more on that. And then I think, way I was describing, we have so much talent on the offensive side of the ball.
Yes.
Everybody wants their shot, but I feel like we're doing a better job of being more efficient, giving guys touches, obviously Saquon. But whenever you have this style of offense and you can attack people and do play action, it makes the defense think, and it makes them hesitant to where instead of lining back in true empty or say one running back in the backfield, 6-man pro, these guys have in minds that, hey, more likely they're going to throw the football. So, but I think the way we're attacking now, I think it complements a lot of guys, complements Saquon, complements the receivers, it complements the offensive linemen. When you can run the ball the way, we're trying to do and sell play action, it really puts the defenders in a bind, and it makes puts the linebackers in a position where they can't be right. If you're trying to stop the run, you're going to have no route behind you. So, and I think that's really it. And I think when stuff wasn't going good, and it can change every week, but I feel like our discussion amongst the team and amongst the coaching staff and the players has been really good and building since the first few weeks.
You've played on some talented teams in your tenure with these Philadelphia Eagles. That 17 team obviously won the Super Bowl. 22, you guys were the runners-up in the Super Bowl. Overall, across the board, and taking into consideration, you still have a bunch of young guys on defense who are evolving. Is this the most talented team you've played on in your time in Philadelphia?
I think offensively, I can say, when I look across the board, as far as the size and just, Dallas, you got the receivers. You talk about Dallas Goedert, Grant, got Kenny, you got Saquon, just the size we have on the offensive line. It's probably one of the more talented teams. And I said that during the offseason. It's like, and that don't win games. And I didn't want to create any unwanted pressure, but it's like, hey, man, I've been around. I know what talented teams look like. It doesn't mean, okay, you're going to have a 12-win, 13-win season, playoff, Super Bowl. A lot of things have to go right for that to happen. But talent-wise, man, we're loaded. In the defensive side of the ball, I feel like, maybe Jalen Carter, some of those guys, more talent, probably one of the most talented guys that I've been around. But the way I describe it, when I was a young player, it seemed like the more I played, the more experience I got and the more confidence I got. And so I think you're seeing that with our defense the past few weeks. Man, it's fun to watch. As an older player, I was telling the reporters, only joy I got out of my job is watching the running back score touchdowns, receivers, and I enjoy the defensive ends and guys getting sacks, rushing the quarterback because I feel like we all have a part in that in the way that we train. So momentum's going our way. I think last week, hopefully, it's a good learning lesson, and going into this week, man, we haven't beaten them down there since. I can't remember, man. 18 maybe. So, man, we haven't. So that's not eye-opening for everybody. It should be, but man, we're on the up and up, and we want to keep the momentum going and keep the energy going.
You mentioned something a few minutes ago. You said when I was a young player. You're a seasoned player now. You're closer to the end instead of the beginning. You've always told me you wanted to play at least a couple of more years. As you go through the grind this year, you went through the training camp, and now we're approaching week number 10. How's Lane Johnson feeling mentally and physically in terms of practicing, playing the games, recovering after the games, things like that?
Yeah, I feel good, man. I hired, one of the best decisions I made. I hired, former Marine Gabe Rangle was my trainer 6 years ago. I was going through injuries, stuff wasn't, my body wasn't feeling good. And so really, I think, I try to handle everything, practice hard as I can, do the stuff after practice. So, by the game time, I'm not hurting. I mean, I feel like I'm taking care of my body a lot more than what I was earlier in my career because, obviously, your time's limited, but I just feel, pain I think is the biggest wake-up call. So, with achy joints, knees, and all that, it's okay. I need to change my routine. I need to find something to where I'm not in that pain. I'm playing well. I'm moving well. And so, man, I put a lot of time in that, and that brings me comfort. So, on game day, I'm not thinking a whole lot. It's like I put in so much work to, I'm hardwired. So this is just hardwiring coming out. And so that's how I see it. And I think as an older player, I try to enjoy my time with my teammates more. I'm thinking about BG, this being his last year. I got to see Fletch last week of the game. All these former guys I used to play with, LaShawn, T. Cole, I see they're in a good place. So, it all goes by so fast. I can't believe I'm 34. I remember when I was a 23-year-old drafted. And, yeah, I just realized how blessed I've been. You know, there's been trials and tribulations, but that goes with the lifestyle of being an NFL player. But you know, I have you know, I just been blessed, and I've yeah, you don't realize how fortunate you are, you know, and look at what your career, what you've done until towards the end, you can start reflecting. But I think while you're in it, you know, and you're working, you know, a lot of players are pretty busy when they're playing, then they kind of reflect on it and can enjoy it when they're done.
You know, it's interesting. You mentioned some pretty prominent names you just talked about who are former players: Shady, Fletcher Cox, Trent Cole. Have you started to talk more and more to players about life after football?
Yeah, I mean, I talked to Kels a lot. I talked to Chris Long. I talked to Fletch. And man, Fletch, when I saw him, he had just so much peace in him, you know. And I knew the warrior was, and you don't realize how much people are going through, and how much they're battling, you know, because we all have a job to do, you know, at the end of the day, and we put on line for each other. But you know, I just you know, I've had some great teammates, and I think. I've had a lot of great football players around me. You know, ever since I came here, Fletch, JP, the veterans. I feel like Philadelphia has always had a great nucleus of great players that do a great tradition of bringing people along, establishing the culture. And so, yeah, I've been very fortunate. But like you said, yeah, I have. I think as I've gotten older, my parents have gotten older. There's been some health issues, so. You can't get time back. So I'm enjoying my time playing football, and yeah, we'll see. We'll see about the future. I think I could play a few more good years, but at the same time, kids are getting older, and there's a lot to life, and I love helping people. I love, I'm always going to love the game, and I think I'll always be around it in some sort of way, but. I do enjoy talking to my former players and seeing the joy and seeing that there is, life after football and people not putting so much of who they are as their identity as a football player. But, a lot of those guys have started working on that while, as they were finishing up, their later part of their careers.
What do you think about your former offensive lineman, Kelsey, man? He's like a national icon now, man. Everywhere you go, the guy's on TV. He's on commercials now. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I got to be a front row seat to it for, decades. So I knew the personality. I knew that if the world ever got to see the humor, what kind of man he was, that they would gravitate towards it. And, I think the podcast for him originally was something fun to do. I don't think he took it, wasn't taking it very seriously. And then as it started gaining traction, his brother, who also happens to be one of the best tight ends ever, I just, you saw it building and you saw it become what it's become. And now I think I'm seeing him enjoy kind of the fruits of his labor, because Kels was a hard worker, man. He worked extremely hard. He put a lot into the game. And so, yeah, just seeing him enjoy everything that he's worked for and yeah, building a brand. And, and I think he's having fun with what he's doing. I think he's finding out that there's a lot to the media side of the world, that you have to learn and have to, just like a football player, you have to learn the ropes, and that's what he's doing. But I'm happy for him, and I know he's having a good time.
You ever say to him, "Hey, Kels, when it's my turn to retire, save me some of that, man. I got to get in on what you're doing."
Yeah, man. I think I have opportunities, but I think for me, I'm going to be probably more reserved first few years.
Okay. Yeah,
I really just want to get back home and be around the kids, as much as I can, which I am during the off season. In season is a little bit cool, but yeah, man, I love it. I love watching him. I love watching Chris. I love watching my guys in the media, and yeah, man, it's a lot of fun. It's weird seeing it from my place, and I feel like BG could probably say the same thing, but hey, it is what it is.
And you talk about retirement down the road, and you're a couple of years away from that, health permitting. But Brandon Graham has kind of let it sneak out that maybe this year isn't his last year. It depends on if the Eagles want. Now, he won't play for anybody else other than Philadelphia. But he said there's a slight possibility 2025 might come back.
Yeah, why? I think the illusion is that Brandon Graham is in his 15th year and he's not a player anymore. And I go watch some of the games and he reminds you of who he is and who he's always been. So, BG loves the game of football, man. He's like me. You become addicted to it because it's just such a unique position to where you have, all these grown men fighting together day in, day out, putting a plan together, and then, putting it all on the line on Sundays. Reputation, everything, it's all out there on the line. And I think that builds a unique bond. And yeah, man, it's going to be tough for me to want to let this game go because, it's all and we love, we love it. But, yeah, man, BG's just tough. I mean, he's, I think what I remember about him most when I came in, they were, saying that, he was almost on his way out of here. And then, they decided to put his hand in the dirt like he did in college and why he was a first-round draft pick. And voila, magic. Yeah. So I got to see the turnaround with BG. And I think what everybody's going to remember about him in Philly is the character of guy he was. I feel like after every time you talk to the guy, you feel a little bit better about yourself. And he's always positive. And anytime I've had something negative or anybody negative has had something happen in the locker room, that guy's the first guy there, and always positive. And there's a lot to say about that, man, the type of man he is and, his upbringing. And he's been a big glue for this team for a long time,
You guys have some great veteran presence in that locker room. Who are some of the guys that are more vocal in terms of setting the standard for the locker room? And I'm assuming you'll include yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I talk from time to time, and when I talk, I usually want it to be some wise words. But I think Jordan, Landon has really gone into their own. Jordan's been a great leader just by how he works, but also his vocal presence. Yeah. Landon's like that more now that Fletch is gone. Fletch was like that, on game day. So Landon's taking over that role. And, I think Nakobe on the defense is like that. Reed is spoken up. So you're seeing players, younger players that are, vets to our team because we have so many young guys, but doing a good job of, being vocal, being a good leader. And it's, not all of it is how you talk. A lot of it's people watching you, how you work and how you operate, how you treat people. That's what people really watch. The words and the messaging is cool, but, that's only, a couple minutes out of the day. Everything else, people are watching you about your actions and what you do.
Isn't that a little uncommon to have younger players step up and be vocal leaders? Usually younger players wait their turn until the older players are gone.
Yeah, I would say more like we have some older guys on offense. Jordan, seventh year? Landon, fourth year, I think.
Yeah.
So we have maybe some more experience on that side. Some guys, we have a lot of young guys on defense, but I think Nakobe is wise beyond his years. He's a great leader. Zach Bond's another one. Just such a great teammate, from day one, and I appreciate how hard he works. So, Sirianni does a good job of, we have like a leadership council, so it doesn't have to be captains, but people that he sees as being of heavy influence of the team. And man, we communicate, really every Friday. We discuss how the week's gone, anything we can do with the schedule, anything we want to bring up to discuss, which, I've been in the NFL for a long time, and some teams, they don't work like that. But, I think a good job with communicating. And at the end of the day, man, we're all trying to win, and we're trying to be more efficient, and we're trying to make our time in the building worthwhile and not waste time. And we're trying to, get people's opinions out and voices out instead of, suppressing that and having regrets, because there's times when stuff's going bad and you're not doing that. And, that don't work either,
Yeah. What is this offense's identity, or is it still an offense that's figuring out its identity? I mean, you guys have won 4 in a row. You're at the near the top of the division. Can you definitively say what your offense's identity is now, or is it still wait and see?
I mean, it's. I want to say our identity is, hey, we're, if we were a fighter, we would be Khabib Nurmagomedov. We're going to ground and pound your ass and end it like that. But there's times where people are going to load the box. You're going to say, hey, man, you're not going to run the football on us. And then we got guys on the outside. So we can air it out. We've done it in the past. We can finish things to the air. So, like every game's different. And I think, the biggest thing is making those adjustments in between each series, finding out why stuff's not working. Okay, why is it not working? Let's fix it. So, yeah, I would like to say our identity is run, play action, big shots. But as the season progresses, you're going to go through different phases. You're going to see teams try to stop, the stuff that you're doing good, and you're going to have to evolve. So I think the best offenses are the ones that can adapt, and that's what guys do. I mean, you see that stuff in the playoffs, and teams, rise above it. But I know this style for me is pretty fun. Getting the tee off on people, and you've been to a bunch of our practices. You see us over there hitting, knocking the crap out of each other. So, that's what we do.
When you guys have all of your pieces in place, Dallas coming back eventually, Jordan Mailata will be back eventually. When you guys are at full strength, is this offense unstoppable?
I don't want to say unstoppable. I think the people that are the biggest threat to stopping it is ourselves. With with that, but I think when you see all these people on paper, you're going, holy shit. I'm going, holy shit. And so that gives me the urgency to go, hey, I'm gonna bring my best. I try to every play, every game, and everything else take care of itself. I think we get wrapped up in what we had to accomplish. We're so focused on the outcome and reaching that we forget about, hey, there's steps to get to that. You know what I'm saying? You can't skip those steps, and that's what leads to it. But it's very easy for us to go to the outcome and, hey, we should be kicking the shit out of people by 40 points with everybody we have. And I think that's human nature, And sometimes you have to suppress that and you have to focus. Well, how do you get to that point? Well, it starts here. It starts on Monday when you don't want to watch the film, you don't want to lift those weights because your body's hurting, and Wednesday when you don't want to practice because your body's feeling terrible, and you got to grind through it, and that's what it takes.
I deliberately waited until this point of our chat to bring this subject up, and I had said off the top of this podcast, team is 6-2. You guys won 4 in a row. You got some big games coming up, and yet all the talk this week is about the decision-making process of the head coach, Nick Sirianni. If you stack it up, you look at some of the decisions he made in that Jacksonville game, he cost the offense like 9 points. I want you to weigh in on what you guys were thinking in terms of some of the decisions he made in that game to go for it on fourth down situations, not take the sure 3 points, and make that game against Jacksonville a lot closer than it should have been.
Yeah, well, I think, obviously the head coach has the the decision-making process, but I think there's a lot of people that help him with that, with analytics, and so it's not just a selfish act by him. I think there's a lot of thought that goes into it. But for me as a player, it's like I'm going to do what I have to do regardless with the play. Yeah, there's some times I would like a field goal, but there has been lots of times where we have converted on Snoopies, and we have we have made those plays, and I feel like kind of a letdown for us. I think as a players more than the play call, because we have executed, and a lot of those decisions come back from lots of years of data that have been built up, and so as we move forward and progress, we would like to say we're going to learn from those mistakes, and so he's catching heat for it. But the first thing we addressed in our team meeting, he says, why are we doing this? And a lot of it goes back to data, to decisions that have happened before in similar situations. So that's one thing I love about Coach Sirianni, is that when we get back to the room and stuff, that's floating around, he addresses it, and we talk about it, and we go, people are going, what the hell's going on here? Okay, this is why we did it. This is why. So we explained to it, and in the heat of the moment, you're like, damn it, man, what are we doing? And it'd be worse if we lost. But yeah, for me and for the players, it's like, man, it's a part of the game. It's like we have a job to do anyway. Shit it ain't gonna be pretty all the time. I promise you that. And more times than not, it's not pretty. But what I appreciate about Nick, and even just the coaching staff, is they explain why they don't go sweep it under the rug and let's forget about it. He addresses it, and yeah, man. I mean, he wanted different outcomes. We as players wanted different outcomes with some of those calls, but a lot of it goes to his faith in us and trust. But as we move forward, we'll learn from it, and you got to, because if you don't, when you get in big games or down the road, you don't learn from those situations. They come back for you. So.
Hey man, that tush push has been virtually unstoppable, and yet I was shocked, as many people were, that Jacksonville was able to stonewall it several times. What went wrong in those situations?
A lot of it goes down to them getting under us, or it really goes down to technique. Like I feel like some of those lapses were that, and then it's like I don't know if they have our number, but it just felt I don't know. I've ran it so many times, like something I don't really think about. But a lot of times it goes down to technique. A lot of times if you just fall flat down and there is no feet moving, the pile's not moving. So I think when you go back and watch why we were really good at it, Kels was very effective. Landon's very good at it. I'm not saying I'm the best Snoopy guy, or quarterback sneak play. Jordan's very effective at it. So I think getting him back is going to be a tremendous help with that process. So, yeah, we went and watched back and looked at the film yesterday. A lot of it is these guys are dipping under us and we're stopping our feet, and that's what happens. Made it look easy, but it's not an easy play. We had guys, that played a long time. They were efficient. They understood it, but the more times, stuff doesn't go right and you go in those meetings and you get told, hey, man, you better fix this, it brings a sense of urgency to get it fixed. So we know that going forward. We weren't happy about it, and we knew, could cost us a football game. A lot of those plays could have cost us the game.
Do you think Nick Sirianni gets a lot of unfair criticism towards him? Because there are a lot of people. He's like 50-50 in terms of in favor of him, against him. He was seen jaw-jacking with a fan one game, then the decisions this past game. Do you think he gets unfair criticism? I know he's energetic, he's passionate, sometimes maybe over the top, especially when Big Dom wasn't there last season. Do you think a lot of that's unfair because people on the outside looking in don't really know Nick?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's, they don't know who he is or how he operates. But I just think it's the city of Philadelphia. I think it's just they're so crazy about football. I think about other teams, trying to think of their fan bases that are taking it to this level. But, I think the criticism comes with the obviously wanting the team to be successful and do things. And I think with some of the stuff with the, talking back with the fan, the first thing Coach did was address that when he came back to the, Monday morning, and was talking about how messed up it was and how he needs to learn from it. And so being vulnerable to us, showing, mistakes and stuff he can't do, and that kind of fuels to the fire. But, for us, I can say this, Jason Peters used to say, man, I've loved playing here, but there's times where, it can be tough. The criticism can be tough, but I think that pressure makes you become who you're meant to be. So it's like pressure makes you become a better player, because the fear is a great motivator. Like I said, it can do a lot of things, can make you a great player, can elevate things, but when you make it become too much and become too destructive, it can take a lot away from you. But I've been around here 12 years. There's nothing here that surprises me. We won the Super Bowl. Hey, we had a couple of shitty 3-and-outs. The first game against Atlanta, we got booed in. I'm like, hey, here's what it is. Hey, I'd be booing. Our offense was a Super Bowl winning team and did some shit like that open day. So I see it for what it is. As a fan, I see it for what it is. And that's the beauty of football, man. There's some places that, that don't take it serious, that they're not in love with it. In some teams, football's not that important to them. But Philadelphia, when they bring in the Philadelphia Eagles, you ain't got to say a whole lot because it's understood.
You mentioned something earlier in our chat that, and you admitted it openly to the media a week ago, that you guys went to Sirianni and said, run the doggone football. And when you talked about how a lot of organizations don't have that open dialogue between the players and the coaching staff. What does that mean to you guys that you have that open door policy, number one, and number two, that the coaches actually listen to what the players are saying?
Yeah, it's just what I was saying, where coach meets with a lot of the captains or the leadership council and the team, and we discuss everything that's bothering us. And so, like I said, I haven't been a part of that before. And I think that's important because, coaches have their jobs, players have their jobs, but at the end of the day, we're working together. And so, we came together, we discussed how we can make an offense that complements everybody, that makes it easier for everybody, where it's not so tough. And so I think, when you can do that, like I said, the style offense we're playing now works very efficiently for everybody. And you make the defenses stink. You put them in bad situations, and when you make defenders stink, it makes it a lot easier for everybody. They can't just tee off on you and scheme you up. So I appreciate coach, and just having the ability to do that, because like you said, it's not like that in other places. A lot of our coaches, help. Coaches probably 7 years, 8 years older than me. Kellen's a year or two older than me, so it's not like I'm talking to to somebody that's my father's age. It's somebody that I feel the communication, there isn't a divide in it. I feel very comfortable with talking with these guys and communicating, and I think that's very important.
All right, I need you to shed some clarity on this, man. Who's running the offense? Who's calling the plays? Is it Kellen? Is it Nick? Is it a combination of it two? Is it more so Kellen? Is it more so Nick? Who's running this offense here?
I think it's Kellen. That's who I see calling the plays. I believe, but I know Stout has his headset on. Nick has his headset on, and there's times where I see Stout run this damn play. What are we doing? So there's lots of voices in the ears of baseball. So it's not just one individual that's accountable for everything, but we have a lot of guys that help with the process. But as far as I know, Kellen's the offense coordinator. So.
Hey man, it's Dallas week, man. It's Dallas week. This is it. The most hated team of the Eagles fan base. How are you guys approaching this? You as a verbal leader, what are you telling guys who don't understand what it means when it comes to Dallas week?
Well, I want to let them know, hey, man, I've been getting my ass kicked in Dallas since 2018. And, that's a big wake-up call for me. So, and it doesn't matter what a team's record is. I hope last week can be a good lesson for that. But I want to let this team know that a team with their back against the wall, they don't have nothing to lose, is a very dangerous team. So let that be known. And then, like I said, what you do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all the way through Saturday, that's what's going to show. Your habits are going to show up on Sunday. So don't think it's just something that just rolls into what happens on Sunday. It's a process. And so get lost in that. And yeah, man, it's a division game. These things, they do mean more. These wins do mean more. So let that be known. Don't make it more than what it is, but have your focus up and realize what you're getting into, which is, a place we haven't won in, 5-6 years. So
does it take some of the luster off the game because Dak is not playing? He's out with a hamstring for several weeks now. Or is the bottom line is, hey, I don't care who's on the field. Yeah. We still have to win a game.
That's the bottom line. That's the trap of the human nature. You want somebody that's a really good player to be out, so the game can be easier so you can win and go home. That's what everybody wants it to be easier. But like I said, teams that are in this situation are very dangerous teams because they don't have nothing to lose. They have everything to gain. And man. And if winning, not winning there in 5-6 years isn't a wake up call, it should be. I know I've been there and been getting my ass kicked past 5. not a good feeling.
Well, why do you think strange things happen to you guys down in Dallas, man? Some games, fluky plays.
Yeah.
What do you think it is with that stadium?
I don't know. It seems like their offense is always like firing all cylinders. They're smooth. They're efficient. Defensive wise, I think it's one of the louder stadiums. They do a good job of, just seems like they're off the ball very quickly as far as pass rushing. So it just seems like everything's like, on YouTube, it's speeded up to 1.25. That's what it feels like, to be honest with you. But yeah, I feel like the past few times we played down there, it's gotten ugly. It's gotten ugly on us. Yep. Let games get out of control and taking some big whoopings down there. And and we hadn't had a solution in a while. So I would like to fix that this weekend.
How do you guys avoid the trap of playing a Dallas team that has not come close to living up to a lot of people's expectations. And looking ahead to that showdown next Thursday night against the team that you're currently sitting behind, how do you avoid not looking too far into the future?
Yeah, I think when you talk about great teams, you need to talk about why they're great teams. I think they need to show, I think coach has done a good job of showing, players back in the day of how they practice on a Tuesday. How did Brian Dawkins practice on Wednesdays and Thursdays? How did Trey Thomas practice back then? And he would show some clips of how hard these guys practice, and then you see the success, and he lets it be known that the success is because of this, and it leads to this. You can, like you said, when you become outcome oriented, you're not focused on the work that leads to that and what you need to do to win the game, then it becomes not a good situation. It's not a sexy thing to say, when you hear Nick Saban talk about all the wins and stuff that he accumulated at Bama. I think a lot of those players can say while they were in it, they didn't enjoy the process. It was a lot of hard work. There's a lot of days where you're going, man, how much more of this I can take, and then you have a big win on Sunday. That's what it takes. You got to really get uncomfortable, and you have to stay there, and you have to, like I said, I can enjoy the season when it's done. In the off season, you can reflect, but while it's going on, you got to take it. You do got to take it serious, and not in a type of paranoia way, but in a constructive way. And let's get our work done, and let's do it effectively so we can have a big game on Sunday. And that's really what we preach a lot.
Hey, how is Lane Johnson doing mental health wise? I mean, you've been very open, very forward, and very generous in terms of helping people with what you've gone through with anxiety and depression. Are you in the most peaceful place you've been in a long time? Do you have an inner peace, or is there still a struggle?
No, there's still struggles, and I think when it goes down to you want to play a certain way, and that's how. Well, put a lot of time in, but man, I have found a lot of peace over the past few years. I think, obviously talking about, situations, the anxiety that I've dealt with, just being a football player. And this all started for me when I was in college. So it's something that I dealt with and had to learn to live with and, to play with and not see it as such a negative or something that's going to destroy my life. But I think in 2024 that the dialogue is becoming a lot more efficient where, I think the education part of it, people are understanding what this is. What are these feelings? How can I address it? How can I take care of myself? So for me as a man, I did a lot of, I guess, running and hiding early, and I would put stuff away and not address it and not solve problems. And it built up to the stuff that didn't need to happen. But a lot of it, I feel like a lot of my anxiety was because of my injury, and I wasn't sure if I was ever going to come back and be the same player. And I was worried about that. I felt like I had, 29, 30 when I had my injury. I feel like the prime of my career, and I had it taken away from me. And so, that created a lot of anxiety for me. But that anxiety created a sense of urgency to, hey, let's fix this. Let's pretty much make your body to where you're not, I'm not in pain like I was, so I'm not worrying about it as much as I was. That really much consumed my life with my injury. And now that that's passed, my body's feeling better. A lot of the anxiety is gone. But a little bit's needed to play this game. I mean, that's what it is on Sunday. It's what makes you play well, and it makes your awareness go up. So I see it as a part of the puzzle.
Have you found yourself being more of a mentor to players and the general public who's reached out to you about, similar things they're going through? Did you ever think you would be on that platform?
No, not really. But, after, my situation in 21, and I talked about it, and, people have been my teammates have known, that have played with me. But when it became more open, I saw, I guess, a surge of people kind of gravitate towards me to discuss. Man, I've been feeling the same. I've been going through the same stuff. I didn't have nobody to talk to. I was scared to talk to people about it. I didn't know how they're going to react, but I guess they see me and somebody coming out and telling it, how I felt, and I guess just being real about the situation. I felt like it kind of lifted the kind of stigma off of it, because I think 5-10 years ago it wasn't seen in the light that it is now. and it's, you know, not seen as a weakness, but something to to become educated on and to learn more about, and to learn, you know, how much, you know, it affects humans all over the world. You know, it's not football, it's everyday people, it's everyday life. And I think the education part was more probably the best thing, because you don't really talk about it in high school. You know, you're not taught about that. You're not taught about that in college unless you take psychology, or, you know, you're trying that route. So a lot of it is you don't know what the hell's going on with you, and you don't have any answers to address it. So.
Hey, man, so good to see you doing well as a football player. More importantly, as a person, go down to Dallas and kick some butt. Just stomp them in the ground and keep this thing rolling, man. It's been a long time since we had a chance to chat, man, and I appreciate you stopping by for a few minutes.
Yep, man. Thanks for having me. Hopefully you can add a couple more bass. Was that a bass and a crappie?
Oh yeah, I got a big 2-pound crappie back there.
Yeah,
9-pound bass. I got the 9-pound bass is a small bass, but that was the biggest one I caught. That was back in the 1990s. I caught that one. I said, I got to mount it. And now I look at it, I feel kind of shame when I see all these people catching 15, 16-pound bass, and you still haven't invited me out on a bass trip yet, man.
I ain't been on any bass trips. I retire, I'll go on some fish trips with you, but yeah, there ain't been a whole lot of trips for me either.
See, what you don't see on the wall is a 12-pound steelhead trout and a 12-pound walleye. See, you don't know about that. So you know D Gunn has a variety like that.
Never caught a walleye. Never caught the
steelhead.
Yeah, never caught a steelhead. I caught speckled trout, and that's about it. Some rainbows, but that's about it.
Hey man, well, stay healthy, man, and good luck Sunday down in Dallas.
All right, thank you, D-Con.
All right, man. That'll do it. Don't forget, hey, stand by, because I may hit you up again later in the season down the road.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. That's going to wrap up this edition of Gun on One, once again powered by the Inside the Birds Network. For my man Lane Johnson, Pro Bowler, future Hall of Famer, I'm Derrick Gunn. We'll talk to you next week after that big win down in Dallas. So long, everybody.